Hi guys, welcome back to The Ratchet Christian. My name is Asmao and I am The Ratchet Christian. So today we're going to talk about how do I know when it's God talking to me. At any given time we have three voices in our head that sound exactly like our own voice, but not all of them are our voices, Not every thought that we have is an original thought from us. So at any given time there's your own voice and thoughts, there's the voice and thoughts of God, and then there's the voice and thoughts of the devil and his demons. My own voice, I know when it's me because it sounds like things that I want, things that I need, or things that I have to do, like dang, I really want this, or wow, I really need to go here, or I need to wake up for that. Like most of my thoughts have to do with the day-to-day things that are going on in my life. I know when it's the devil or some demons because it sounds a lot like negativity, it sounds a lot like insecurity, it sounds a lot like unforgiveness and thinking in the past, like, oh, like I don't look cute today, or this guy's not into me, or dang, I should really just, like text my ex right now, or I should go back and do this and go back and do that, or I should be really mad about that one thing somebody said about me in 2017. Like it's just stuff that's like negative, and I'm like, well, no, that's not me. And then when it's the voice of God, it sounds like the better thing to do, and sometimes even the harder thing to do. Sometimes it's apologize, or don't do this, don't do that, don't say this, don't say that, you should do this, you should probably do that. And I'm just like, Lord, sometimes it's not always the easiest thing, but that's how I know it's God sometimes. So God speaks to me in lots of different ways. There isn't just one way that he speaks to me, and I'm going to go through some of those ways. So sometimes when I hear God's voice in my head, I know it's him because it's very, very clear. Like it's like all the noises drowns out, and then I just hear like a very clear sentence. For example, like one day God told me to give my sister $250. I'm like, give my sister $250 for what? Like, she can get a job. But God had really blessed me financially that year. I started tithing, and I had made triple that year what I did the year before. And I knew God was just challenging me to be generous. And so I was obedient, and I did that. And a couple months later, somebody gave me $250 back. So I knew that that was God. When I wanted to start this YouTube channel, because it was God that gave me the idea, I'm just like, Lord, I don't want to put my business out there. And I heard so clearly God say to me, it's not your business, it's my business. It's not about what's happening. It's not about you. It's about what I did for you. I want you to go and tell other people so that they know that I can do it for them as well. And I was like, dang. And so the most recent example that I have of God speaking to me was I was going to work the other day, and at my job we have like this little cafeteria area where you can stop and make coffee and stuff like that. So I'm like, well, I'm gonna go clock in and then I'm gonna come back and make coffee. And God's like, don't do that. I'm like, what do you mean don't do that? He's like, you should make your coffee and then clock in. I'm just like, no. He's like, well, technically that's stealing because you're not at work, so you should make your coffee and then clock in. And I'm like, well, God, is this really you, or am I just being crazy and arguing with myself at like 8 a.m.? He's like, no, it's me. And I'm just like, I don't think so. And so I was actually going into the clock in, the punch in thing at my job, and I just could not punch in because I knew that that was God, and I heard him say to me, integrity is created in the small things. And I'm just like, oh, I know that this is you. So I just went ahead, made my coffee, and then I clocked in, So God's voice sometimes sounds like the harder thing, and it's always the better thing to do. So I hear him very clear when he speaks to me in my head sometimes. And then sometimes there's like a feeling, in Jeremiah, he talks about it being like a fire shut up in his bones. And so sometimes it's just like a feeling that you get. I've heard people say like, I had a feeling that I shouldn't go here, or something told me not to go there. It's not something where you had a feeling. That's God. There was one time God told me to tell my sister something, like to warn her about a person, like, oh, be careful when you're texting this person because you don't know what it is that they're saying or showing to other people. And this is my older sister who I love and I respect and I admire. I'm just like, no, that's weird. I can't tell her that. Like, she's gonna be like, what are you talking about? And I kept having this feeling over and over again, and I just got really hot all over my body, like my bones were like on fire. And so finally I just told her, I was like, look, this may be weird, but God's telling me to tell you this. And then a couple weeks later, she called me. She's like, you prophesied to me that day. She's like, something did happen via text with me and another person, and I'm so glad that you told me what it is that you told me. And that's not the only moment sometimes where I feel like there's like fire shut up in my bones. There was one time I had gone out to eat with some of my friends, and one of our friends was like really down, and we were trying to just get to the bottom of it, like what's wrong, what's going on. And everybody had asked her all these questions, and then God just told me to ask her about this one particular friend, like, hey, what's going on with you and this friend? And it was that question that just made her break down and cry. And I was like, haha, we got to the root of the matter. So yeah, sometimes I hear his voice in my head. Sometimes I get really hot all over when God is telling me to tell somebody something, whether it's like correcting somebody because they might be in error, or maybe God's calling me to speak my mind on a certain issue. It's not every time, because I'm a pretty opinionated person, you know, I voice my opinions, but it's not all the time that I really want to say something, you know, but sometimes God, you know, gives me this feeling that this is a moment where I should say something. And so God also talks to me in dreams and visions. I have dreams that come true. There's been plenty of times I have dreams about stuff happening to my car. I'll have a dream that I get a flat tire. Later on that week, I'll get a flat tire. I've had a dream before where God has showed me that, you know, somebody who I was dating was not being faithful, and it turns out that he was out there wilding. And then whenever I dream about somebody that I haven't seen in a really long time, I usually end up hearing from them or seeing them within that same week. So God speaks to me in dreams. And then most recently, he actually spoke to me in a vision. He showed me my roommate Val getting engaged the day before she got engaged, like clearly, perfectly, down to the color of her nails, down to the moment. It was like I was watching a Snapchat video, and I was just like, yo, that was so weird. And then literally the next day, I go to the graduation party she's having for her fiance now, and I could hear them getting engaged. I was like, dude, like, I wish I would have told her. That would have been so cool. Like, God showed me that you were going to get engaged today, but I'm like, what if I'm wrong? I don't want to be weird. So God talks to me in lots of different ways, and that means he talks to you in lots of different ways. And there's sometimes I've heard him audibly as well, you know, so people think as God's voice is like this loud voice, and you'll hear it sometimes, but it's not always that. But I have heard him audibly, like out loud, where it's like I'm like, huh? But it's always has been when I'm like oversleeping. I've heard God say to me like, wake up, and I'm like, huh? And this is more than a few times. It's been like 3 or 4 times where it's like I've fallen asleep in my car, and I've heard somebody say, wake up. And I wake up and I'm like, oh shoot, I was about to be late. Or I'm in bed oversleeping for something, and I'll hear God tell me, wake up. So it's like, that's when I hear God out loud, is when he's like, dude, you need to get out of bed. You're going to be late for something. So God speaks to me in lots of different ways, and I'm sure he speaks to you in lots of different ways as well. Let's get into the scriptures. John 10:27 says, my sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. Jeremiah 33 verse 3 says, call to me and I will answer you, and I will tell you great and hidden things that you have not known. I love that scripture so much. And then Isaiah 30 verse 21 says, and your ears shall hear a word behind you saying, this is the way, walk in it, when you turn to the right or when you turn to the left. I love that scripture so much, because that's God. You know, when I'm about to do something I shouldn't do, God, you know, will just have like that small little voice in my head like, Esmao, are you sure you should do that? I'm like, leave me alone. I don't want to be Christian right now. And he's just like, baby girl, you shouldn't do that. So it's like a very still, quiet, gentle voice. God is a gentle giant, you know. He's not going to be screaming and yelling at you, but you have to be still and listen, and you'll hear him. You'll feel him. You know what I mean? And so, like I've been saying, God speaks to us in lots of different ways. He's speaking to you in lots of different ways. All you have to do is listen and pay attention. If you pray for something and you're waiting for God to answer, pay attention, because you may think he's going to answer it one way, but he might answer it another way. He might tell somebody to come and tell you something that you were praying for. You know, so God can speak to you through a song or through a movie or through a commercial. He speaks to us in lots of different ways, and you just have to listen and pay attention. You may think like God's not talking to you, but God's constantly talking to you. He's probably had a full conversation with you today that you missed out on because you didn't realize that it was him. So the more you listen to him when he speaks, the clearer the voice becomes. It's like a muscle. The more you listen to God, the more he will speak to you, and the clearer you'll be able to hear him. It's so funny because there was one time at work I had a crush on this guy, and I wanted to tell my friend, and God was like, don't tell her. I'm like, she's my friend. What do you mean don't tell her that I have a crush on this particular person? He's like, just don't tell her. I'm like, why? You know, and then I'm so glad that I didn't end up telling her, because eventually him and I ended up working together like as partners, and then I found out that he was married, and then that would have been like really awkward, like, oh, so-and-so said she had a crush on you, but you married. But I never said it though. I'm saying it on here, but I listened in that moment where God told me, like, be quiet, don't say that, And so recently I had lost some money, and I thought that I lost it at church or somebody stole it at church. Like, some money went missing from me throughout the day on a Sunday when I was volunteering at church. And I'm like, dang, somebody at the church stole my money. I was so tight. I was so hurt. And I was like, I should text my pastor and ask her to check the cameras. I should tell her maybe that there's a thief, And God was just like, no, don't say anything about it. I'm like, don't say anything about it. You just want me to take that L. You just want me to, let people steal from me. But I listened, I was like, God, like, I have been wronged. Why don't you want me to say anything? He was just like, be quiet. Literally later on that week, as I was doing laundry, I found the money in my pants. No, it wasn't in my pants. It was in my wallet, in like this little like purse thing that I carry. And it was in my laundry basket. I had changed throughout the day that Sunday, and I just put my clothes in the back seat. And I put the little purse in the back seat. And then when I got home from church that night, I just took everything and I put it in my laundry basket. And here I am thinking somebody stole from me when really my money was in my laundry basket. And I would have looked like such an idiot if I would have caused a scene and had my pastor check the cameras just to have to go back and text her and be like, hey, sorry, I actually found it. And so God told me to be quiet, and I listened to him. So in the moment, it can be like, what? This doesn't even make sense. You don't want me to say this. You don't want me to do that. But being obedient when you hear the voice of God is always for a reason. And the more you're obedient when he speaks, the more God is going to speak to you. And the clearer it will become. And so if you want to hear more from God, God is already speaking to you. But if you want to hear his voice more clearer, here are a couple things that you can do. Do listening prayers. My roommate Val put me on to listening prayers. I never knew what they were before this year. And basically it's like, instead of you sitting down to pray and talking to God, sit down and listen. And that's a form of prayer. I'll literally just sit there for the first 5 to 10 minutes before I start praying, just to hear what God is saying to me, to see if God's going to give me a vision. Like, I give God room to speak. It's not every prayer that you have to be talking. Sometimes you have to sit there and you need to listen. Give time to speak to you. You as a person, you don't like having one-sided conversations. We're not supposed to have one-sided conversations with God. It's not always us talking to him, telling him what we need, what we want, or what's wrong. We need to give God time to speak to us as well too. It's a two-sided thing. It's a relationship. Who wants to be in a relationship with a person who only talks at them, and then when they're finished saying what it is that they have to say, they get up and leave? You don't want to be with somebody like that, and God doesn't want to be treated that way either. We need to be having open dialogue with God, conversations with God. So when you pray, sit down and ask him first, Lord, do you have anything to say? Or even when you're finished, after you pray, like, okay, God, what do you have to say about this particular thing? So speak to him, do listening prayers, sit down and actually wait for him to say something. Seek God's opinion on things. I seek God's opinion on everything. I really do. I'm like, God, what do you think about this outfit? What do you think about this friendship? What do you think about this guy that's interested in me? I seek God's opinion in everything, and he gives me his opinion on things. We'll have a full-blown conversation back and forth, and I'm just like, Lord, is this you? He's like, yeah, it's me. So seek God's opinion. Should I do this business deal? Should I cook this for dinner? Even the smallest things, I'm like, Lord, help me to glue my eyelashes on right today. Just the smallest things. There's nothing too small for God to care about. So just seek his opinion, talk to him, and engage with him throughout the day, and you'll be able to hear his voice become clearer and stronger to you. So yeah, just talk to him. Revelations. Okay. Yeah. So just talk to him. It's not, I feel like prayer for me is when I go and handle business. Prayer for me is sometimes when I go and handle warfare. But throughout the day, I'm just talking to God. Like, God, how was your day? Like, I know you don't sleep. I think you eat. But how are you? Like, how are you feeling? When was the last time you asked God how he was feeling? Are you doing okay? Like, I know we're down here getting on your nerves. I know you probably miss some of us because we're down here and you're up there. Like, God, how are you? What's going on? Like, are you pleased with me today? Like, how can I help you today? Who can you put on my heart to go and speak to, or go and encourage? This is a relationship. And so if you want God to speak to you, you need to give him time to do that. And when he does, you need to listen. And so in conclusion, just the other day I was talking to God, just having like a conversation with him, and I'm just like, Lord, like, this is weird. Am I talking to myself? And he was just like, well, even if you are talking to yourself, like, I can hear all your thoughts. So you're never really talking to yourself. You know, sometimes you're processing things, but I can always hear what it is that you're saying. And sometimes I decide I want to talk back, and sometimes I don't. You know, and I find that when I'm just talking to God, God has a great sense of humor. He is so funny. And he'll just do little things or like say little things that just makes me laugh. And it's just made that big universe creator of the world seems so real and so personal to me, because me and him, we be cutting up. You know, like God will rebuke me and just be like, you need to relax. Even God will tell me sometimes, like, who do you think you are? You know, like, oh, you don't want to text this person back because they took long to text you back. Who do you think you are? I'm like, mind your business, Jesus, because they should have, you know, did this. And then I'll just like, even recently, I was just like, I want to ask for a raise at work. And he was like, but what do you really be doing that you need a raise for? And I'm just like, mind your business. I want a raise. So yeah, just even talk about it brings me joy, because it's like God is funny. He's really, really funny. The more you talk to him, the more you'll see his personality, and the more madly in love you're going to fall with him. So to close us out, Revelations 3 verses 20 says, behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come into him and eat with him, and he will eat with me. So God will stand there and knock. You know, he'll say something very gently like, hey, it's me. Maybe you should pray today. It's me. Maybe you should get off of Instagram and read your Bible. Like, God is he's a gentleman. He's very gentle, and he's going to speak to you very gently, and he knocks. He needs your permission to come in and to operate in your life. And so God says it's up to you if you want to open that door. If you want to hear his voice more clearly, all you have to do is open that door. Like, God, I'm here. I'm sitting down. I want to hear from you. Speak to me, you know, and that's just how it gets started. So guys, I hope that this was beneficial and that it made sense, and yeah, that it speaks to you and you just get more excited about talking to God, because who's more excited to talk to than the creator of the universe, who knows everything about you and everybody else? I don't know. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you next time. Bye.